Wanting to talk about leadership, it's because I have a philosophy that says, Prof, things rise and fall in the hands of leadership, be it capable or incapable. I think what we see in the country, what we see in this world is probably one of those things. But it's a wonderful opportunity that we can influence the space, because what we do today and what we say today, provided it is informed, will shape tomorrow.
People like to make leadership, they romanticize around the topic leadership. Leadership is very simple. It's anybody who is followed. A leader is anybody who's followed. That is why there's good and bad leaders. And bad leaders somehow have got more followers for whatever reason. So either they're very good at communicating their promise and people buy into it. I'm never shocked. You can say all you like about, and forgive me as I say this, you can say all you like about Trump. Oh, good Lord, he has got a following.
When we basically sponsor these young girls and boys, we should be able to say, they should not just go out there and go and do their masters on things that are useless. Whatever they should be doing, we should be able to mentor them, coach them, such that when they decide to say, I am going to do this, this is something that when it's done, is really going to add to the body of knowledge, but it will make the dial move from the country's province point of view in the right direction. That, to me, is part and parcel of the leadership game.
Leadership is action. We are good at precaution. We sit in strategy meetings back to back, 18 hours, 34 hours. We push it. But what time do we get to act around it? The precaution stops us. It breeds inactivity to the point that we actually don't get to move. Because now we are thinking, Agenda 2063. I'm thinking 2026. Can we start now? Because we are so prepared for a future that you don't know if you're here for.
Welcome. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for joining us. And I'm just really thrilled that we have this year-end episode of the Inspired Growth podcast. Actually, it's the first episode of our Inspired Growth NPC. And I am Pamela Klaba. I'm your host. I'm excited today. I'm thrilled that you are joining us for what promises to be a truly special leadership conversation. And, when we reflect and look at this year, I'm really reminded that, one thing about leadership, it's not only about strategy, it's not only about titles, more importantly. I think for me, how I would describe leadership is really about courage. It's about vision. It's about how do we then create an impact or create legacies that will outlive all of us, And today, we are diving deep into that space. And what is that space? That space is about governance. That space is about grit. That space is about, leading with global influence and leading with impact in that space, and I'm really then joined. I feel so special today. I really do, so I think, when we put out things out there in the universe listens to us, and then it moves with intention to conspire and give us what we have asked for. So today I'm really joined by two brilliant minds who are shaping Africa's leadership future. Dr. Pat Mazibuko, welcome. How are you, sir?
Thank you so much. I'm good, firing on all cylinders.
Oh, wow. It's going to be really an interesting conversation, right? And we also have His Excellency, Prof. Dr. Ambassador Tal Edgars. Welcome, Prof. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm great.
Thank you so much. Thank you for gracing us. But before we dive into introductions, it's very important that we give our listeners, our viewers, and the context, because also the reason why we started this podcast and also why we started Inspired Growth is that, how do we really give access to young professionals, to young people, to up-and-coming entrepreneurs that they wouldn't necessarily have an opportunity to sit down with leaders like yourselves, mainly from underserved communities, mainly from previously disadvantaged communities, to say, look, if they look at you and you tell your story and your history and your background and your journey and your triumph, your joys, and how you overcame some of the challenges to be the distinguished leaders that you are today, then we are giving them hope. And the hope that says that, if Dr. Pat with his background, if Prof. Tal Edgars with his background can be where he is today, surely, then it is possible for me. So we're giving hope to the African child that they shouldn't really look at themselves as less deserving, yeah? So, but then the story also, how I met the both of you, I think let's give that context to our audience, is that, it was on one Saturday morning, I was sitting at home on my couch with my laptop with an idea that I had been procrastinating on of how do we start an NPC that is going to do exactly that in terms of leadership development and inspiring the African child. And I had called this NPC in my head at the time because it was just a concept and an idea, and I called it Inspired Growth, right? And I was like, okay, but I knew that the idea is so big that there's no way that I can do it on my own, because also I don't know what I don't know, right? And I sat there and I looked at LinkedIn because my business lives on LinkedIn, and up popped this post that said, and it caught my attention right there in that moment, and it said, rejection is very painful. But what is most painful is the missed opportunities that are caused by our inaction. That was the post that came up on screen, and I thought, yeah, really, I've been procrastinating. But then I got curious, who posted something so profound that speaks to me, that spoke life to me at that very moment. And I looked at the person that posted it, and his name was Dr. Pat Mazibuko. And I thought, okay, who is this person? So I went and I rated his profile, and I rated his LinkedIn profile. I read where he's been, what he's done, and whatnot. And I thought, maybe let me just reach out, because I've been rejected so much as an entrepreneur. It's not a unique story to me. Most entrepreneurs face rejection. And I reached out to him. I wrote him a message. I introduced myself. This is what I'm trying to do. And I was so nervous, and I clicked the send button, and I closed my laptop and I put it away, stepped away, because I thought, what have I done? Maybe this gentleman, will just think that, this lady is so forward, And lo and behold, the next morning at 8 a.m., I received a call from Dr. Pat Mazibuko. And it's like, oh, you sent me a message. What are you all about? And then I started telling him my long story. And this is a gentleman who didn't know me from a bar of soap, but that call, we spoke for almost an hour. Just me going on about my ambitious dreams, about what I'm trying to do. And he gave me an ear and he listened to me. And fast forward, and a few weeks later, and then I said to him, oh, Dr. Pat, you know what? I've got a client dinner that I need to organize, and this client this is what they're trying to achieve. They're trying to build their inclusive leadership voice around the table. Do you know anyone that can speak at this dinner? And Dr. Pat, do you remember what you said? I'm not sure, because we have spoken about so many things. You said, Pamela, I think I know exactly the perfect person that will deliver what you are trying to achieve at this dinner. And that's how I was introduced to Professor Tal Edgars. Gentlemen, thank you so much. So to our audience, literally, the pain, the deepest pain that we feel is caused by our own inaction. So had I not acted that day and reached out on that post, because also I think it was also just the universe calling me, answering me for what I was asking for. That's how that post came about. So welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So really, this is then an unscripted conversation, because then how do you, our meeting alone, our human connection alone was never scripted. It's not like someone said to me, no, I know a gentleman called Dr. Pat Mazibuko, I'll introduce you to him and whatnot. It just happened by divine grace. And here we are today. So on that note, I am really humbled, and I'm really gonna then get into introductions, so that our audience, they really get to know the depth of who you are, your experience, and the wisdom and the intellect that we'll bring into this conversation. So obviously, if I've missed anything in introducing both of you, please, you are more than welcome to add to it, and then we'll get into our discussion, right? So I'll start off with you, Dr. Pat. Are you fine with that?
Please proceed.
So I've called you, you're a strategist who leads with courage and clarity, because that's how I understand you in our few months of interaction. And then I think in the 3 months that I've known you, you have actually just, taken my thinking into another level. You've challenged me on so many levels, but in a beautiful way. So Dr. Pat is the managing director of Pasima Enterprises. He's an independent leadership consultant whose career spans more than 2 decades across South Africa's most complex and strategically positioned sectors, ranging from FMCG to energy generation, as well as telecoms, So he is the leader that organizations will call on when they need a clear strategy, when they need a trusted crisis navigation, when they need high performance cultures, when they need executive coaching grounded in wisdom and lived experiences. Because it's one thing to coach leaders on concepts, but it's even more profound to coach leaders on lived experiences, because that's how it sticks, right? So he brings to the table the rare combination of operational intelligence, senior leadership depth, and the ability to turn pressure into precision. So Dr. Pat builds leaders who can execute with courage. So I'm executing today with courage, as much as I'm nervous, right? So thank you so much, Dr. Pat. Now let's move on to His Excellency Prof. Dr. Ambassador Tal Edgars. That title alone should tell you a whole lot about the special individual that we have today. He's a diplomat, he's a visionary, is a global architect of development. So Prof. Tal Edgars is one of Africa's most influential voices in governance, in strategic foresight, in complex negotiations and foreign policy. He's a multi-award winning leader, he's a diplomat, he's an academic, he's an investor, and a global business authority. So Prof. Edgars is the kind of mind that shifts rooms and nations. So his resume alone reads like a global atlas, like Africa, Europe, America, Asia, and many more. So he has designed, he has negotiated and led high-level initiatives in government and business. He sits on boards across the world and remains one of the continent's sharpest thinkers in competitiveness and development. With 15 investments, he is an angel investor whose strategic intuition reshapes markets. How does even one person achieve all of this? So you will tell us, because this is not even half of your bio, Prof. But Dr. Pat, thank you so much for introducing me to your accomplished friends. So Prof. Edgars is not just a leader, he is a benchmark. He's a signal of what informed, intentional, inclusive leadership can look like on a global stage. Yeah? So let's get into this, right? We said we are unscripted. The conversation is completely not rehearsed. There are no answers. It's just really honest dialogue that we're going to have. We'll unpack lessons from the G20 Summit. We'll unpack and explore the cost of indecisive leadership. We'll also discuss how inclusive intelligence, right? Because also this podcast, we have called it Governance Grid, Global Influence, and then with a tagline that says inclusive intelligence. Yeah?
Right.
Okay. So how do we then, unpack all of this? This is not just going to be a conversation. I say to our audience that is going to be a masterclass in leadership. I'm not sure if Dr. Pat, you agree with me.
Totally aligned.
I'm going to hand over to you, right? I'm going to hand over to you because I think I've been speaking for close to 10 minutes now, if not more. But let me then just hand over to you in terms of, because I remember how this idea came about. You said to me, I think it was about 6 weeks ago, and we were sitting somewhere strategizing, and you said to me, imagine one day, Pam, we have this discussion, the three of us, yourself, myself, and Prof. Edgars, about the future of leadership in Africa. So here we are. You asked me to act. Now we are here. Over to you. Over to you, Dr. Pat.
Greetings, everyone, and thanks, Pam. I'm really humbled.
Yes.
And thank you so much for creating an opportunity where I can sit side by side with my great friend, His Excellency Prof. Edgars. I'm really grateful for that. But let me tell you a little bit about myself over and above what you've said.
Yeah.
Also bearing in mind that it's got a time constraint.
Yes.
So I'm going to try and be succinct.
Yeah.
A lot of people know me as a senior executive that is very passionate about leadership.
Yeah.
What they miss is that I am an electrical engineer.
Yeah.
No. So I've been in corporate for about 37 years. 8 of those 37 years, I was a practicing engineer. And the rest, as it happens in South Africa, saw me within executive management. But being an executive leader that has got great engineering fundamentals basically helps you to make informed decisions. Just like we normally talk about data-driven decisions. When you are one of the top executives and you are a classic engineer, your decisions are tested and they're fundamental, and therefore you are able to drive in the right direction. So I'm excited. Wanting to talk about leadership, it's because I have a philosophy that says, Prof, things rise and fall in the hands of leadership, be it capable or incapable. I think what we see in the country, what we see in this world is probably one of those things. But it's a wonderful opportunity that we can influence the space, because what we do today and what we say today, provided it is informed, will shape tomorrow.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. And I like what you said, because it's like, what does leadership look like for the future? So how do we then build legacies that will outlive, and, what gift are we leaving for our children in the process? Prof, what do you have to say on that? And just, how you understand this unscripted conversation.
Thank you, Pam, for having me. Thank you for the platform. Great to be here with my brother. I think one of the greatest parts of that is that we all represent Durban. So Durban, stand up. That's important. We all come from very different backgrounds in terms of what we have done in the past. But that question similarly lies in between. Most of leadership is stuck in animating what happened in the past.
Yeah.
Some of them are stuck in what will happen in the future.
Yeah.
And we ignore the interim.
Yeah.
Okay. And that transition of carrying people through the journey, we fail more often than not.
Yeah.
So the conversations that we have when they are unscripted, it means we bring our authentic selves.
Yeah.
We are now talking not from a position of executive.
Yeah.
We're now talking as human.
Yeah.
And humane steps are normally devoid when it comes to leadership styles.
Yes.
We are very quick to talk about performance. We talk about strategic objectives, and we lean in on so many different concepts.
Yes.
But let's talk about people for today.
Yes. Let's talk about people. I love that. Dr. Pat, yes.
Yeah, I just like what Prof has just raised. And what comes to mind right now, when we go into a corporate environment, we are always worried about the bottom line. What we want to create as a future breed, or what I call the next generation of leadership, is leadership that balances profit and people. Because in this day and age, it's not balanced.
Yes.
And it is one of my future dreams that we could create a next generation of leadership that can balance profit and also people. And maybe the environment. That triangle to me is very important.
Yeah. So then let's build it now, right? So let's build it. So we've got a topic, right, that says governance, that says grit, that says global influence, right? And we are saying that inclusive intelligence is then now the new currency of global leadership in the context of us talking about people. So what does that topic mean for you?
I think it's very important to point out that when we talk around inclusivity, the concept has been merged through very many definitions.
Yeah.
And that is why we find that different organizations approach it differently, because there's no standard that has then said inclusivity needs to be met by this threshold, not even by law. The kind of differences we see around Africa historically then do not attach to how do we then become an inclusive nation. We are all doing different things because we come from different places. And there's nobody who's met that to say, this is what is going to look like 10 years from now, 5 years from now. And we are bringing our cultural identities, our cultural languages, our historical identities into inclusivity. And sometimes we fail. So in trying to talk around inclusive intelligence, we're saying, if we were to take a horizon scan of some of the things that are sub-assets of where we come from, what we do, how we have approached this, what would be the future of work? If we approached inclusive intelligence from this perspective, there's got to be a bedrock that we're starting with. The bedrock cannot be from governance, because governance, I tease this, I know I'm going to make more enemies than friends. Governance is a foreign concept for us. You talk ESG, you talk King 4, King 5 now, you talk IFRS. All those are met, but we are all coming from homes that these systems existed. All of us, Emakaya, we didn't have time to look at what inclusivity looked like. So we have to go through a process of learning, unlearning, and then now picking a mantle to say, this is going to be the bedrock of inclusivity. Because we are not moving the needle due to so many systems which are systemic that we cannot be able to just provide for that in a corporation, in a boardroom, 365 days a year. There are homes, there are laws, there are policies. How do we look around the entire spectrum?
So there's just no simple answer to say, when we talk about inclusive leadership, this is how we should be. It maybe talks about, how do we look at the entire ecosystem? Is that what it means?
I think you're teasing the knowledge of two terms here. And I always say Dr. Pat and I are the best tag team in governance and leadership. But here's where perhaps allow me some latitude. Leadership in itself is a nexus. Some call it a science, some call it an art. It's a nexus and a myriad of things that we need to combine to reach to a place and say, this is what good leadership is. Right? Then there's misleadership, which we see often than not. Now, Africa has always been given the only option, not the best option. So as you talk about leadership and inclusivity, perhaps let's allow to paint what is leadership. Then we might arrive at what is inclusivity and how do we match this two in organizations that are looking forward to leadership. They have inclusivity but zero leadership. Or they have leadership and zero inclusivity. There is where it lies the debate about where we are supposed to go.
Dr. Pat, what is leadership? I'm taking the question from Prof and giving it to you. What is leadership then in the context of this topic that we're talking about governance, grid, and global influence? We'll come back to inclusion. So what is leadership?
Well, Pam, for me, leadership is the ability or the science basically to get people to see the big picture that you are painting, such that once you've been able to calibrate them, you can step back, they can run on their own. I've always said that when you're a leader and then there's great performance, but when you disappear for about 6 months, you go on holiday or you are sitting in the ICU and nothing moves, then you have not created leadership. You've just created a system that works around you. But for me, leadership starts at grassroots. It's about, let me put on my engineering hat, where you need to go into a drawing room, sit around the drawing board and you start crafting this thing. And again, like we spoke about vision, it must be compelling. You start at a very lowest level and make sure that you create a very solid base, because it doesn't help Just that when people are at a certain level, we talk about leadership, you try and infuse this thing and it becomes totally difficult. So you start basically at a lower level where people know what they need to do. How does it basically add, or how does whatever they do culminate into this bigger picture? That is always missing, because at the end of the day, what you find in the absence of that of those fundamentals, you find people shooting from the hip, moving from point A to point B. And this is the biggest problem that we have in Africa right now and around the world.
Sure. And you often talk about the leadership game.
Indeed.
And what is the leadership game then?
Well, Pam, when I coin this thing, Prof, of the leadership game, for me, first and foremost, I am very observant. I observe a lot. And as I was observing, I realized that people will give you a definition of leadership depending where they are at that moment in time. And I realized that it means different things to different people. But then, as an engineer, the engineer in me likes to simplify things. It's just like electricity is equal to voltage. Voltage is equal to current times resistance. Everybody will tell you that. But what is leadership? For me, it's about the art of leading people, the art of leading the entire ecosystem such that the bigger agenda is achieved. And a number of times we think we are doing it. All we're doing is just to make sure that we are busy and we want to be noticed that we are busy. But we just need to step back. There must be an art. For me, the leadership game is about the art of getting things done such that you can just press the start button and everything can move like a well-oiled machine.
Sure. So talking about pressing buttons, and we just had the first G20 Summit on the African soil, and we came with a lot of buttons that were pressed, just to use your analogy. So, Prof, let me come to you with this first G20 Summit on the African soil, and let's unpack some lessons also there. And let's unpack some leadership lessons.
I think the first is to say that South Africa's determination came full circle. That for the first time, Africa shared its intentions with the world. We have not had that platform in the AU or the UN. This was the first time we could communicate some of the philosophies that come from also business, that come from social activism, that come from the youth. And if you were to follow very keenly, you'd find out that a lot of women and youth elements were borrowed in every work stream and working group. So it's the first time we've ever been able to attach capital to inclusive policy. We've been able to drive climate from South Africa. No offense to what is happening in Paris or in Davos, but it was a statement to say we can do this too.
Yes.
And I think the leadership lesson above all things was we can actually work with goodwill if we intend to get things done. Measuring 144 meetings to come up with 122 statements that are bold, decisive, and can lead us into the future, told us that perhaps we underrate ourselves a little bit too much. If we had, and I'll reflect it to the conversation you started with, for me, leadership is what we are doing now. You woke up one day with the hope and ideals that you can change the game. You reached out to Dr. Pat, unknowingly so, he collaborated with the intention that togetherness, we can have a joint vision, shared goals. He reached out to me with a willingness that perhaps we can bring something full circle. The three of us sit here today because of shared vision, shared goals, ambition, greed. If we all could believe that leadership is merely collaboration with intention to perform goodwill, we might then see that the G20 was our blueprint. And we can do better if we exerted ourselves to some of the things that we raise as issues of South Africa or Africa as a continent. I think that was the statement we came out boldly saying in the G20.
As you are talking, Prof, and my mind is going, so what does this mean for the normal man in the street?
I think the important part is not the so what, it's why now. We have had so many different, and I hold all our colleagues, both in private spaces and in public spaces, perhaps to look at it differently. That when we exert ourselves on the town hall meetings, on the council meetings, on the bargaining councils, on the unions, we never see that as an opportunity to bring in stakeholders to map out a future that people deserve. We use that as a platform to complain, to share our problems, but we never really navigate to say, these are solutions. Let's attach these solutions to things that will be interventions that we can then look at. So if you were to revise data, and I know all of us here appreciate that, if you're to revise data, how much research comes from universities? Tons of it. How much of that do we use? 8%? We're the lowest continent that has research that is produced for global use. We refer to documents, even now if we were to talk about people performance, we refer to documents on research done by global companies. Not the average organization in Eastern Cape or Cape Town or Nairobi or Ghana or wherever. And that becomes the problem because the underserved communities are never represented in that data. So it doesn't really appeal to them because then they're saying, what you're talking about looks very high level, it's executive based, then we will leave it for corporations. If we can silo this all the way down to the point where we say, how do we make this available to the individual? Keeping in mind the realities of the identities we are talking about. The average reality for somebody in Western Cape might not be the average reality for somebody in Durban. How do we bring that inclusivity and approach that on a policy framework? The data suggests we have to go back and ethically start to perform real-time data that we can then be transparent about the data. We can communicate this data back and say, these are the numbers of people who do not have access to A, B, C, and D. And what do we do as an organization? Then where do we have a whole of government approach, a whole of society approach? So that just like the G20, apex organizations knew when to jump in. Technical, T20, Y20, all of them knew exactly where they were able to represent. But as of today, once the G20 takes off, we are all doing what we do best. We scurry around to every single agenda that we have. A year passes, 2 years, 3 years, and we wonder where has time gone. Yeah.
And the pain of missed opportunities
There you
caused
go.
by our inaction.
There you go.
That will forever stick with me, Dr. Pat, because
There you go.
it's like every time then I, want to complain about something and I'm like waiting, but I'm like, who am I waiting for? Maybe it's me that is supposed to do this, or
Right.
maybe I need to act. So what I'm hearing from you, Prof, is that maybe, we only have ourselves. If we now saying that we are going to wait, who are we waiting for?
That is the idea, but also that
Yeah.
leadership is not always precaution. Leadership is action.
Yes.
We are good at precaution. We sit in strategy meetings back to back, 18 hours, 34 hours. We push it. But what time do we get to act around it?
Yeah.
The precaution stops us. It breeds inactivity to the point that we actually don't get to move.
Yes.
Because now we are thinking Agenda 2063. I'm thinking 2026. Can we start now?
Yes.
Because we are so prepared for a future that you don't know if you're here for. I want to be prepared for now. You've got children who go to school. You've got communities you serve. How do we operate in a way that also keeps in mind that the future will not exist if the current is ignored?
Yes.
That will be the difficult part.
Yeah. Time to act, Dr. Pat. So let me come to you. Dr. Pat, just building on what Prof has given us, and just reflecting, and I'm just going to, ask you to reflect on some of the conversations that we've had, because I think, and I spoke about rejection earlier on, and because it's real, right? So it's not every day that you reach out to people, they're like, oh, okay, yes, I hear what you're saying, let's do this, So I've had people that ignored me completely, not because they are bad people, maybe they've got other priorities, or maybe what I'm trying to say to them does not land. So, and I'm asking you then to say, what made you to actually, read my message that I sent you on LinkedIn. I'm building this up in the context of action and leadership. And you decided that, okay, let me phone this lady the next day at 8 a.m. amongst all the other things that you could have done at 8 a.m. that day. Let me just phone and hear what she's talking about. What drove you to that? Action and leadership.
Now, Pam, first and foremost, I'm a very pragmatic person.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a pragmatic leader. And like I said, I pay attention to details. So my day is like that. When I wake up in the morning, I'll pray and so on. But somewhere along the line, I also take stock. And that's basically what I do.
Yeah.
I take stock. Amongst the process of taking stock, I saw your message. And then as I read your message, there was something that resonated with me. But let me just put it out there right now. Prof, I picked up a sense that says, I have something that's burning within me, but I need some hand holding. And I think you could possibly help. You know? And because I'm a very passionate and compassionate leader, I felt that I can make a difference in this person's life. Secondly, what you raised there resonated with me in terms of how you outlined the problem statement. She outlined the problem statement so well, and I simply said, I really want to stand up and be counted. And basically, I was saying to myself, you can count on my kinds of support. At that moment in time, I was very clear that I could come on board, basically do two things in the main. One, use this as an opportunity where I can basically mentor and coach you, but also use this as an opportunity where I can come in and really be counted to basically take this thing to the next level. And I think we've done that.
No, we have. In the 2 months, it's still a baby in the making, but that baby, we are sitting here, right? You know, and I'm just really excited. And Prof, you also just said that, you know, we shouldn't, yeah, it's good to talk about Agenda 2063, but let's talk about 2026, right. You know. And to add on to that, Dr. Pat?
Sorry, let me just conclude this part before you go to that. You know, when as I read your message, I then said to myself, what else are you not telling me? See, that's normally a big leadership question, to listen to the unsaid. You know? And what I felt that you were not telling me is that you have a lot of unbottled or of bottled energy, but it needs to be directed. Thank you.
No, it was exactly that. It was exactly that. It was the energy that was born out of vision, but also born out of pain and grief and loss. But then how do we then use that type of energy so that it doesn't consume you and channel it constructively, you know? But also, I think, because I also started with saying that sometimes we don't know what we don't know, right? And I was actually just stuck. To be quite honest, I got to a point where I was like, okay, now I'm stuck because, you know, here's this big idea, but I don't have sufficient networks or people of influence that will help me navigate. And then how do we then even build a community around it? Yeah?
Yeah, Pam, as part of this unscripted agenda,
yeah,
I just want to link up with the point that you've made earlier on.
Yeah.
Around the G20, and then the question is, so what? Okay, for me, there was a conclusion that was made. It has been communicated. So for me, the biggest issue is socializing that with the masses, because those that were there represent the masses. How do you socialize that? Secondly, it's a question of saying, what are the next steps? A number of times there's a temptation to deal with these things that are of the strategic influence. Once the limelight has moved on, it gets packed out there, and then other things come in. It's only when you come to the review date that people start thinking about it. So the big question for me is, how do we keep these important things on our radar screen that emanated from the G20 outcomes? How do we then make the important things important, not only for those that are key players, but also for those that are influenced, that are impacted, be it directly or indirectly?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Pat, for closing that loop, you know. And I'm also just thinking about you, Prof, as well, in the context of global influence, right? And what we shouldn't forget then in this discussion is that What does that mean for you? Because, I mean, we may take it for granted because now you are close to us, we know your bio, we've, harassed you on LinkedIn and rated your profile and Google and read all sorts of articles but our audience, they do not know you, right? And for that, I would just really like you to unpack, because I think when I was doing the introductions, so maybe what I didn't allow you is to then even go further in terms of the work that you do. Who are you in the context of global influence and the space that you occupy?
Good Lord, you're probably counting on us being here for a whole week if we are to if we are to unpack all of that. But perhaps allow me to only take 3 points and perhaps use 3 points for those who want to know what I do.
Yeah.
I'm an avid reader and avid student. I've never stopped. I lecture, yes, but as much as I lecture, I learn as much as I can.
Yeah.
And I think to tie into what makes my relationship with Dr. Pat what it is that we're very big on knowledge management, right?
Yeah.
The only way we can make leadership stick is if we can borrow our lived experiences, our institutional memory, and document it so that people can come back and say, remember, we are leading 4 generations in corporate today. You're not leading people, you're leading generations. Generation Z does not respond to the millennials the same way. So the way your leadership style is for a millennial is not the same for a Gen Z. And that's why there's a lot of rebelliousness when it comes to the Gen Zs, because they are thinking, you don't understand us. And I'm saying this from a point of home. I've got kids who sometimes will tell you when they speak English, I think, wait a minute, what does that mean? You walk into the house and they say, oh, the rents are here. I said, rents? Did you say rats or rents? And rents. And so we are slowly seeing, even in the academic circles, that as you stand in front of students to communicate, we might possibly be unprepared for the future generation because we don't speak their language. And we need to learn. We need to unlearn certain things. So I'm an avid reader. The other part is, I come from South Africa, but I am African. I'll say why. Part of my growing up in exile, I have lived in more countries than I think anybody I've ever come across. So my longest term of learning languages was not 1. I speak 12 languages. Okay, so if you put me in Mozambique, I will be fine. I'll speak Portuguese. If you put me anywhere in Francophone Africa, I'll speak French. You put me in East Africa, I'll speak Swahili. You put me anywhere else. And that then reinforced the idea that perhaps the issue has never been where we are from. The issue has been, what do we learn from each other? What can I borrow from Pat? How do I bring what you know and what I know and create a conduit of success by saying, can we communicate what both of us know to Dr. Pat? That's leadership. If I can carry you through a journey of 2 people, and we can communicate that to him, enough for him to understand that this is not African, it is performance, it'll stop being a compliance benchmark. So now we have compliance. We need to fill up 200 seats, we'll fill them up. But we don't take into account where you're from, realities, where he's from, where I'm from. Put it together and say, how do we communicate this to 3 generations that exist in an organization? And so everybody wakes up in the morning. Look at what research is showing. We have higher burnout rates now. You've seen that on TV, a couple of people in public office falling down. Health, we are now pushing wellness. Why? People are showing up to work because of compliance. Not of willingness, compliance. I need a check. I need to provide for my family. Because we've lost reality with humane movements, is that these people get tired. These people want to attach to a vision. These people want a promise that sticks. They want leadership that understands the story, communicates it, but is willing to hear. Not to respond, to hear, to learn. We have a lot of hearing to respond. No, we've heard what you've said and board will communicate. How do you communicate with other people? And we were teasing this logic with Dr. Pat some few minutes ago when we said, people like to big leadership. They romanticize around the topic leadership. Leadership is very simple. It's anybody who is followed. A leader is anybody who's followed. That is why there's good and bad leaders. And bad leaders somehow have got more followers for whatever reason. So either they're very good at communicating their promise and people buy into it. I'm never shocked. You can say all you like about, and forgive me as I say this, you can say all you like about Trump. Oh, good Lord, he has got a following. That's why he built a business around showbiz. People love him on screen. You don't, but billions do. And we must get to a point where we understand that sometimes bad leadership communicates better than good leadership. Why? They show the realistic nature of their intention. People come here on Saturday, I need you to get this work done because we need to get paid. You communicated it. So we all know we are here to get paid. You are caught up in 500 pages of strategy, drawing other flow charts, telling us how the year will be promising. I don't know if you realize, but I don't know if you can butter promise on bread.
Oh my.
I'm just saying, leadership needs to live in some realistic nature so that we can communicate it day in, day out. People walk into a door, people walk out of a door. They don't need vision. They need humane. This is what as a human I understand you need. Can we provide it? Can we protect it? Can we grow it? That symbolism will grow faster than if we keep on referring to our documents. And by no way I'm making this a joke. In government, we've got a lot of documents. Always we refer to, did you read the white paper 1995? Did you read it? It is underpinned by the strategy INDP. How many of these documents do we need? We can only read so much. So for me, that becomes another part. And last but not least, I'm a Christian. Above all things, people need to remember that we have a calling to create a brotherhood that connects. And when Dr. Pat will tell you, when he calls, I listen. He has never asked that I don't do. Anybody who works around me will tell you, if you put a message across to me, I will. When he reached out with his book, I read, lovely book. My goodness, I wish another time we'll come and unpack that. Life as it is and all of that. He has understood the ideals of bringing to life the symbolism of every single lesson that others can reflect on. And that is why I honor the fact that he asked me to write the foreword, because for history will remember that we put pen and paper together that children can read. And that is important.
Talking about knowledge management, right? And books. And Dr. Pat, for our audience, Dr. Pat is an author, a very distinguished one at that. Our first meeting, our first physical meeting, he gave me his books.
Right.
And he put them on the table, said, here you are. Like, you want mentorship? I'm not going to give you something.
He has a ton of books, I know.
Go. Then I told him my long, soft story, and I remember I started crying in that meeting. It was probably like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into with this one? But anyway, so the book then that I read is Such is Life.
Such is Life, yeah.
That evening after my meeting with Dr. Pat, I took that book and I read it and I could not put it down. And I was crying, crying almost the entire time, because I thought, when you're confronted with yourself and when you see yourself in this book and the many, many chapters and different examples, because it's lived experiences, and how do you deal with certain challenges, but how do you also deal, with your own self-inflicted, pain, and habits that led you to that pain, So, Dr. Pat, Such is Life in leadership. Unpack it for us.
Well, thank you for that. I wanted to put something out there that will basically shake the tree within a person, something that will shake a tree. Then once you've read it, you should feel uncomfortable for the right reasons. He also used 3 words that you should find yourself at a point where you say, I need to unlearn certain things. I need to relearn certain things. But I need to get to a point where I just say, look, and now an engineer in me is that you always carry your toolbox of life. as you proceed as a person, you need to take stock and say, well, I am here right now. Maybe there are other tools that I need to basically offload and bring new tools so that I can be able to proceed. And that's basically one thing that I had in mind in writing this, but also just to help some people to say, we are human. Because when people look at Prof. Edgars, they don't realize that he goes through some emotional package that an ordinary man there by the street does, So I wanted to do that, but I also wanted something that can help people make a turn or conscious decisions about their lives and say, look, listen, I draw a line here. And beyond this, I need to make a change. If I don't make a change, like we say, you can't do things or same things over and over again and expect that you're going to get different results.
And you called it Such is Life because such is life. It's unscripted. It happens, But I think what we then learn is that when you then confronted with yourself and you learn and you unlearn and you relearn, is that then you need to move with intention. In life shouldn't just happen for you. Someone said to me that your life shouldn't take you by surprise. Things that happen in your life shouldn't take you by surprise, because if they do, that means that you just move and hoping for the best. You're not intentional about who you invite in your space, be it personal and professional, and the work that you do, what impact will it then leave for those coming after you, right? So then, Prof, let me tell you another story. We then, in us building inspired growth,
Right.
At this NPC, then we thought, okay, so how are we then going to get the message out there, right? And I said to Dr. Pat, let's do a masterclass series for the next 12 months, and because when you're trying to build something like this, you really want to bring influential voices that people, one, would listen to, right? And how do we then, together with these voices, come up with interventions that will solve what we call critical skills mismatches, starting with South Africa and then maybe Africa, right? Because what does this mean for the African child? Because I don't think that we lack talent or we lack skill, or there's a shortage of skills.
Right.
But maybe there's a dynamic that says, there's a critical skills mismatches. In your view and your leadership space, how do you believe that we can really solve for the skills mismatches in Africa?
Wow, you always put me on the spot to create enemies, and I won't have a job after this, but okay. Look, let's start it from a very basic understanding.
Yeah.
What animated us into self-independence was to have a control of our future. Mm-hmm. We are agreeing to that point.
Yes.
If that be the case, are the systems of education prepared from where we're coming from? No, they're not. That's a reality. We have been measured to fit what existed, and so we are churning out more and more graduates who are supposed to fit in an overpopulated corporate system of capitalism that we have said we need to be here. While prior to that, our informal market across Africa, 90% of it traded before independence in all countries and was very successful. We decided now we want to turn the reality of our economy into corporations and to drive business. And we get that. We have to grow. But if you look at Singapore, then you borrow the agrarian revolution and how they made it work. Makes sense. Dubai, the same, right? The first thing we have to come to terms with is this, that sometimes perhaps it's not about the critical skills, it's the talent mining spectrum that fails us. That we don't have a very critical method of mining talent in South Africa. And because we become, again, I am about to make enemies, because we become leadership lazy, we focus on the compliance more than we focus on some of the issues that will drive us towards getting best performance. We are not a performance market, we are a compliance market. So if we don't comply, you can find me. So I'm going to do everything to make sure I meet the compliance. Do I have to meet the performance? Not at all. So I hire on compliance, right? Imagine that post another 20, 30 years. Then let us compare the tapestry of Africa as it is, what Ibrahim Traore is doing. Less education perhaps, but he's doing what a ton of PhDs we have in South Africa have not accomplished. Why? Because he's not sticking to compliance. He's very quick to understand that we need a market that will deliver to my people, that will make them economically viable, that will put food on the table, that leadership will not be a spectrum of who has complied best, but who can lead ethically. And he has made a public announcement of how he will deal with dishonesty. So the mandate is clear. We are toying around with our constitution when it serves us best, right? We always say leadership at the top. How do you lead when you don't have followers at the bottom? So I think the leadership nexus changes there to then say, if we are looking for critical skills, are we mining in the wrong places? Perhaps so. You can average students from any single community. Look at the innovations that are springing up from Africa. They are not in the suburbs. They're in the rural areas. So somebody has ignored those rural areas for a reason, and that was pre-independence strategy to say these places didn't matter. But we are done with that. What is stopping us from including them? Entrepreneurs, small business owners are playing in the periphery of the economy. They are not in the epicenter. But wait a minute. Small little innovations are being bought by bigger banks because they're not built to scale. They're built to sell. Because even the entrepreneur knows, I might not grow this organization to a 1 billion rand valuation. I need to feed my family. These realities must force government, apex organizations to rechange part of their skills development to say, maybe we are developing the wrong skills. We have a ton of lawyers. Look at PhDs today in South Africa, and I speak a lot about the postdoctoral precariat. We are over qualified. Marketing, insurance, in law. Who's going to fix the railroad if all of you have PhDs? And this is a very...
I can't fix the railroad, I'm a PhD holder.
I'm saying that. Who's going to bring new fishing techniques? Nobody. Who's going to talk about marine and ecology? Nobody. Who's going to talk about how we have new systems of production? Nobody, because we have infiltrated corporate. 3-tier PhDs are moving around here, and we are overly qualified. That is why we move our talent to America. Why? They've got a bigger, wage market. They've got a bigger employment market, and you can sit in a department. You go to America and you find a South African there, PhD, working off a hotel, and say, "No, I have my doctorate." I'm like, "Oh, you thought it was going to be different." Grass sometimes is not green on the other side. If we ignored our egos for a moment, when I walked in here, how many jobs existed? 50. Only 6 have been filled up. Why? Because the rest of them don't see those as jobs. They see those as casuals. And so they cannot be fitted into an employment structure. Why? We use our competency scheme, hire to fire, hire to retire, in between competencies and skills. We cannot play by the same playbook when we have huge unemployment. Let us resource these under-resourced areas. Let us plug in and communicate really what our national development plan is to the grassroots. You have to understand what that means. But it can't be something that happens during election. It's got to happen every day. Because if I come to Home Affairs and that person can't communicate with the NDPs, how am I supposed to care about it? I don't care to. Let it move. So we've got a lot of reactionary leadership. Oh, COVID happened. Let us call everybody to put in money for PPE. Did we not learn? The Jewish came and said there was a Holocaust. We should have looked at this and said, wait a minute. We are not isolated. We are not insulated to such things. How do we build a future-proof economy? Right? We are legally airtight. South Africa, we love it. We are legally airtight. Post that, we are not connected to our people emotionally. We are not connected to the realistic nature of what real leadership has. And this is what I say when it comes to the world of economics. For everything that has a cost, it has a price. The cost of leadership has a price to pay. So let us accept here now that good leadership sometimes is thrown out faster than bad leadership.
Yep.
The cost of good leadership is that you might not adapt to a market with 60% of bad leadership. Why? Because you're not singing to the choir. So in the masses, we have to be politically correct. Dr. Pat knows what I'm saying. We have to evolve. And when they say, let us go into conferences, a lot of us spend time listening. I've yet to see leadership who go on a listening tour. Just listen. Don't talk. Just listen. Listen for once to people in every single structure. You'll come to realize some of them have never thought of you as a leader. Perhaps so. But are you willing to pay the price for that kind of information? No, you're not. So let's stick in our glass houses, in our corner offices, and make sure that we are never ousted until we have accumulated enough pension. Perhaps that is the agenda for many leaders.
Dr. Pat, I'm going to throw this hot potato to you.
Look, let me just add on what Prof said, but I just want to bring a completely different angle to this. I want to go to the education department. The education department is geared up in my own view. Okay? I could be creating enemies too, but I'm bold enough to put this because it's factual. They're producing certificated individuals. And that makes me lose some sleep, Pam. They are not producing individuals that are geared up to deal with the problems of this country. Hence my issue of indecisive leadership, or decisive versus indecisive leadership. But secondly, one of the things that you said, you spoke about an issue of not having enough skills or mismatched skills. But let me talk to you a little bit about corporate environment, where I spent more than 85% of my career. And then when you talk to corporate leadership, they will tell you that we don't have engineers. We don't have technicians. They complain. And then I said, no, step back. We have them. They're locked into management positions. And the big question then is, why are they locked into management positions? It's because it is more fashionable for you as an engineer to be in a management position or to be a top expert. Because if you are a top expert in engineering, you do not take the same amount of money that a person in a management post takes home. Now, it requires a shift to say, pay engineers almost the same amount of money to pay an executive on the outside, but be very clear what you want him or her to do. So what happens in South Africa, in most cases, Prof, you find these engineers that say, look, I'm taking 1.7 million rand cost to company a year, and I'm a chief engineer. But if I were to be a manager, I'll take 2.2, And then his or her desires start shifting. And when they move into the space of being an executive or a manager, they sit like this. See? And then we turn around and say, hey, we don't have engineers, we don't have technicians. They've basically shifted the focus. So we need to step back and change the game. Or what I would say, what you do, you then take this card and then start reorganizing the deck. Or just go out there and consciously take a decision that I'm going to reorganize the deck. We've got these people, but sounding like a broken record, we are not paying them enough. We're not looking after them. So most of them decide that they will migrate into management positions. Believe me, if you could pay engineers what they deserve, none of them, or very few of them, will have a desire to go into management positions.
In 2026, here we come.
Well, let me just close this part, Pam, because I could see that you are very edgy around the issues of indecisive, or the cost of being indecisive as leadership. What is out there? And I think one of the things, Pam, that I always say that as a leader, you take isolated decisions. You are not out there for popularity game. You take this decision. And maybe one of the things that you said about Trump, as an example, It's because Trump can take decisions. Whether good or bad or ugly, he takes decisions. And one of the things that the masses like is a person who can take decisions. Whether good or bad, they tend to be excited by that. Whether good or bad, because he's got a gift of the gab and they follow him. But one major issue is that he can take decisions. He doesn't dilly-dally.
So it's time to act.
Time to act.
It is time to act. So we're going into the new year. Vision 2026 leadership game for you, Dr. Pat.
Vision 2026 leadership game, I have a view that says, I want to create a platform where I can take some of these young and promising individuals, put them in there, create the next generation of leadership. You know, an example, just an example. I spoke to some of the political leaders. I said, we have what we call mega projects in South Africa. A number of mega projects have not done as expected. What should stop us, Prof, to basically take some of the smart girls and boys that want to do their masters and then give them some sponsorship and say, go and do a project. Why are these mega projects failing? Why are these mega projects overrunning, courses all over, quality is bad, and so on? Let them do PhDs and masters. And then let's bring that in and make sure that we put it in the mainstream and put it in the social machine and start dealing with those things. And one of the things that we need to do as decisive leadership, when we basically sponsor these young girls and boys, we should be able to say, they should not just go out there and go and do their masters on things that are useless. Whatever they should be doing, we should be able to mentor them, coach them such that when they decide to say, I am going to do this, this is something that when it's done, it's really going to add to the body of knowledge, but it will make the dial move from the country's province point of view in the right direction. That, to me, is part and parcel of the leadership game.
And I'm part of it. I'll be right there next to you. 2026, I am not letting you go. Forget. Prof, let me come back to you. Thank you so much, Dr. Pat, on a serious note. No, thank you so much. And I just really feel deeply humbled. It's just really a gift. When you get, Prof, to a point where you're like, oh my gosh, what's next now? Where do I go now, right? And really God says, well, go this way. Here's your friend that will help you, So let me stop with the emotions now. Let's come back, focus.
Corporate.
Yes.
Corporate.
Yes. So 2026, Prof.
I think there's a lot of unlearning that must happen, and I'm taking it upon myself to actually spend more time around that. The first part is I'm doing a lot of conversations with elders. The reason I say that is that there's an eldership leadership mantle that exists in Africa. We are not inviting the elderly to conversations. History, if anything, has taught us. It's a repetition of things that happened in the past. And often perhaps this is the side angle people don't get to know in corporate. We always call some people from retirement because they understand how these things worked. So why are we calling them from retirement? Why is it we don't know what happened? Bring these people into conversations and then connect that to the leadership of today and connect it to the young leadership. Leave no vacuum. We are tired of the reset buttons. We did this in 2025 when we revisited. This is similar to what happened last year. Why do we live in a world of similarities? Parallel confabulations that mean nothing to me, right? The second part is to produce knowledge that really speaks towards what inclusivity looks like. And currently we're doing that with a couple of other PhD holders, which is the Black Liberatory Pedagogy. We are looking at Black academics in white academic spaces. Perhaps the story not told fully as to why imposter syndrome is a big thing in corporations today. But we need to target that and speak to it because there are certain experiences that have been ignored but are important. Conversation for another day. And the third part is to exist beyond collaboration. We collaborate. we are doing things. What's beyond this? There's got to be something intergenerational that can tie to a legacy. And if that can happen, we can see more Rebosses getting born again. We can see more Mapones more getting born again, because that is lost somewhere in between. For some reason, we have stopped creating. We have started managing, and we have started living through what existed. No more creations are coming out of here. Dr. Pat and I are not thinking of filling up a stadium about leadership. But that has been done by John Maxwell and the rest. Miles Monroe. Why didn't we do it? Why can't you and I believe a reality that exists that is impossible? But we are seeing it in the entertainment industry. So I want to sit with them and say, hey, how did you get to a point where fear means nothing, that you can fill a stadium? I can learn something here, right? How do these people get beyond leadership? And so 2026 is the part where G20 said we would never fill this country 122 leaders of the great 20. I'm sure we can do it. 200 leaders, best in their game, in this city, from every single area in the world, to talk about how we change the narrative and the game across different functions and verticals. We can do it. But if we do it, there's a promise to intergenerational legacies that as we do this, we will document them in the faces around what happened. I was still waiting for people to come together and say, why don't 200 leaders write about post-COVID? What are some of the lessons we carried through? Because we ran organizations at a very sensitive time.
Indeed.
What's my child going to do when it comes back? Nothing, because dad didn't leave a book. So we are effectively saying we need to move into more collaboration, but there's got to be an agenda, intergenerational legacy. We must leave this better than we found it, but we must elevate the conversation beyond simple rhetoric that yes, we want interventions and we can tie it to policy, and we can play all that communication. Acting requires us to make the mistakes as we move along. If we've got each other, then that's what's important.
Dr. Pat.
No, as I was looking at him,
it
occurred to me that he's wearing a t-shirt, a soccer t-shirt. And maybe let me use that in issuing my parting shot.
For our audience, he's talking about one of our technical guys in the background.
In issuing my parting shot, those that love soccer will say that a good soccer player is always where the ball is at. But I say an excellent player is always where the ball is going. So from a leadership point of view, that's going to be my role, to identify those that need to be where the ball is going. I thank you.
Please let me be an excellent player then in 2026. No, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Pat. But then before I let you go, I know that we are like now out of time completely. But, and I'm just doing this deliberately because I can, right? So the career, the leadership and career, the annual Leadership and Career Acceleration Summit. I'm throwing it to you.
We have taken a conscious decision within the Inspired Growth NPC that we need to influence the captains of industries that can come and partner with us in creating a new generation or a new breed of generation leaders. We thought that, look, we then embed what we call business action learning. So in that, as a principle, is that when we partner with the industry captain in this annual event of ours, is that we will identify probably 20 students, top students per fraternity. Right. And then so far we've identified about 140 or so. We'll bring them in, those participating entities. We will then move these students around, probably be with your organization for about 6 weeks or so, and their sole mandate is to be attached to some of the graybeards or some of the smart girls and boys in the organization. But we are at liberty to push them to give you solutions on what are called business business or existing problems that need to be solved. Once they have solved it for you, they will then hand it over to run with it. But it's just a concept that is called business action learning, where people can come and do it. So at the end of 18 months, as an example, what we are hoping is that you, if you have participated, you will then have a first right of refusal to pick up the best of the best amongst them. Right. But we want to do that over a period of 5 years as a start. So our call is that we would want entities like yourselves and so on to come and partner with us. There will obviously be a financial contribution, and that's why you have a right of first refusal at the end of every cohort. Right. But we've actually thought about this thing long and hard to say, look, when these guys graduate, at the end of the day, you will have impressive CV, not only impressive CV, but you will know that I am bringing somebody on board who's able to apply his or her mind into complex problems and come up with some real solutions that can be implemented. And that's basically, in a nutshell, what we want to give as an appetite of our annual event that we're planning to have.
Splendid.
Yes, so we spoke about action, right. So we want to act, right? So, Prof, let's close. Dr. Pat, thank you so much. Prof, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and your intellect. Prof, Dr. Pat, thank you for making this happen. Prof, closing notes.
I think one of the things I've learned in my lived experience is 30 years of probably owning different large corporations as well across different markets. Help is not always at the top. We obsess with the nature that sometimes for us to get things done, you must go to the top. Yeah. Sometimes the bottom has got ready field soldiers, and you must get to a point to idealize that collaboration is an effort towards an intention to get action done. So if you want things to move, stop waiting for the top. Sometimes get it done. That is what leadership would demand of us.
Yeah, and people will catch up.
People will catch up along the way. Every song that is sung, everybody ends up dancing it.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm ready to sing 2026. So, but thank you so much to our audience. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to this really, really enlightening episode with our two brilliant minds as guests today. We've had Dr. Pat Mazibuko. Thank you so much, Dr. Pat, for making this happen, as I've mentioned. And by the way, Dr. Pat is now the executive director of our newly formed Inspired Growth NPC, you know. So thank you so much. And we've also had Prof. Edgars. Thank you so much for gracing us with your wisdom and your intellect. Like I've said, you've given us a gift, and we will really promote, because what we do with these podcast episodes, we promote them widely in the African continent, mainly Southern Africa, Central Africa, West Africa, East Africa. So thank you so much. And this has been the year-end episode of the Inspired Growth podcast with the topic Governance, Grit, Global Influence, Inclusive Intelligence, rather, the new currency of global leadership. And I am your host, your cheesy host with dry jokes, Nobile Pamela Klava, and I am signing out.